When most of us think of Oklahoma waters, we mostly think of our lakes, from bass fishing to running jug lines for catfish. But throughout the state is a network of thousands of small streams, creeks, rivers that hold a vibrant, often hidden world.
I'll be 80 years old next year, but I still love to just pull up a seine and see what fish we've got. I get excited.
He does.
So I guess that's why we're so fascinated by fish, is that every time you turn the corner, you see something new.
Bill and Edie Matthews have spent their lives turning those corners. Retiring in 2016 after decades as professors at the University of Oklahoma and curators at the Sam Noble Museum of Natural History, they have meticulously cataloged the state's aquatic life. What they've found is staggering.
We've got around 180 species of fish in Oklahoma. So at any one site, you might get 10 species, you might get 30 or 40. 50 of those species are in the minnow family, and about 40 of them are in what's called the darter family. So you've got two families of fish that make up more than half of the total diversity of all the fish in Oklahoma. But in and of themselves, they are a vast array of just beautiful fish. Especially in breeding season, many of the minnows take on reds, blues, just a rainbow of colors in the summer. And the darters, which are these very small fish that live under stones and in riffles for the most part, the biggest ones are about 6 or 7 inches long. Most of them are only 2 or 3 inches long, and they're just a dazzling array of colors. Greens, reds, blues, orange, yellows, and they're just magnificent fish.
For Bill and Edie, studying these waters isn't just a career, it's the foundation of their partnership.
Well, it's something that we share as a passion, and we have always enjoyed collecting together and working together in the lab and teaching students together, taking them on field trips. And so, yeah, it's a pretty good magnet.
Well, the year we got married, we also that summer drove like 9,000 miles together all over the Midwest, from South Texas to North Iowa and Nebraska, collecting fish for a project. And, you know, if you can stick together for that many weeks on the road, you got a pretty good future together.
Yeah.
So
their research has mapped out a geographic shift across the state.
So geographically within Oklahoma, like Edie said, there's this tremendous gradient between rich diversity in the east, and low diversity in the west. But in the west, you've got some incredibly interesting species that don't occur in the east. So it all kind of comes out as a very interesting state. If you go into the Ozarks and the Ouachitas, those areas are the richest diversity of fish in Oklahoma. They've each got like 110 to 120 species. If you go to the far southwest corner, there are more like only 30 or 40 species. You go in the Panhandle, there might be 15 or 20 species. Carrizo Creek out at Black Mesa, I think, has like 6 species of fish. So in some of these really salty places, you'll only find 2 species of fish, and they're really salt tolerant.
After decades of academic research, Bill and Edie realized there was a critical gap in how this information was being shared with the public. To solve it, they are releasing a groundbreaking new field guide to Oklahoma's fishes, supported in part by the Oklahoma Department of Wildlife Conservation.
And we realized that many of the students didn't have the background to use a dichotomous key. Just, no fault of their own, but the classes they took didn't employ those and stuff. And so Bill, for many years, would take his students on field trips, and he'd give them a little cheat sheet. And the cheat sheet would say, okay, you're going to see these minnows, these darters, these bass, sunfish, and here's how you tell them apart. Include in that group of people, people with no experience in fish. We give a little bit of an introduction to what is a fish and what are the different fins and all that, but it's pretty straightforward. So we took the approach of having a photograph of a fish the first time it's encountered, and then afterwards, there's another monarch. Oh. Afterwards, in subsequent chapters, just having an outline drawing that is very similar to his cheat sheet. You know, here's what they look like, here are the key characters, and here are all these fish with these lateral stripes, but how can you tell them apart? And you don't even have to count scales or fin rays or anything like that. You just have to look at shapes and relative sizes and so forth.
The regional aspect is really, really important because, like Edie said, you don't need to try to figure out what minnow you've got out of 50 if you know in this area there are only 10 likely candidates. We'd like as a book you could throw in your backpack, you can throw it on the seat of the pickup truck, you can get it dirty, you don't have to worry about it.
This accessible guide arrives at a critical moment. While the Matthews note that historically native fish are resilient, the landscape is shifting beneath the waters, bringing severe consequences for highly specialized species.
Our biodiversity crisis is real, and there might be less for people to enjoy in the future or to understand.
There are some very dramatic changes in a few species. We talked earlier about the Arkansas River shiner. They used to be incredibly abundant in the Canadian River. And I saw 10 to 15,000 of them during my graduate research, which we, by the way, counted released. And now you'd be lucky to find a dozen of them out there.
The threats are complex. Beyond water withdrawal and urbanization, simple habitat changes create lasting effects down the food chain. When lake levels back up into sandy tributary creeks, bank erosion creates deep pools. These new pools invite predators like sunfish and bass, who decimate the native red shiner populations that once thrived there.
Water withdrawal is a biggie. Habitat change, whether it's intentional or not, or occurs many, many years after you build the dam for the lake to fill up. We've been fortunate up in this part of the river to not have too many invasive species, but to the extent that becomes a bigger problem everywhere, I think those are the big three.
Fish need water, and most of the fish we've got need flowing water. You're on Cerro Road with houses as far as you can see. So this kind of hardening the surface, paving, it increases the amount of flow and rushing water. And even here, this creek was not nearly this deeply incised 50 years ago. So I think that's another issue, is urbanization. And we just crossed West Oklahoma the other day. Center pivot irrigation is sucking out the water. So
the solutions to these massive challenges aren't easy, but the Matthews believe the foundation for long-term conservation starts with a single spark of curiosity.
And that education is really the fundamental basis for long-term conservation and sustainability.
Because the vast majority of stream access in Oklahoma is privately owned, local landowners are the true stewards of these waters.
I mean, anytime we stop at the house and get permission to go in, and if we're actually keeping a sample in a jar, then we get back up to the house. If the person's around, we're happy to show them. And the usual thing you get is, oh my gosh, I didn't know that kind of fish lived in my creek. And you go, yeah. And then they're more prone to protect the creek. 20-some-odd species of darters in the Ozarks. And some of them are very rare, some are very common. You walk into any riffle, kick over a rock, you'll find an orange-throat darter. And yet you'll have landowners, when you bring the jar back up out of the creek with a specimen or two, we didn't know that was in the creek. And I guess that's the kind of people we're trying to target this book to as well. The stakeholder anywhere in Oklahoma is a critical part of conservation of the streams and the fish.
It forces you to see that there's this really bigger connected picture. And I think that's important. And we have taken our granddaughter collecting here since she's almost 14, since she was 10, which, by the way, she loves. And she knows the fish, and she knows where to find the sunfish versus the minnows. And so it doesn't take an enormous amount of training or effort or going to graduate school or anything to start to develop an appreciation for that connectedness of everything.
Bill and Edie Matthews' new field guide will be available soon. It's an invitation for all of us to step into the water, look a little closer, and discover the hidden currents connecting us all.